What is up, guys? This is Alex from F4F Figures.
Hi there everyone, this is Chuckles.
Who do we have here? Shovel Knight's eponymously named hero, Shovel Knight! I see you let me do that intro myself this time.
It's too complicated.
But no, for real guys, really pumped to be able to finally show you Shovel Knight, the first in the series,
yep.
the character, the eponymously named hero, as I said at the beginning. And you know, this is the first time that we've done something from the indie genre, so it's really exciting for us to be here to be able to showcase this.
Yeah.
So you know, if this is one of these sort of videos that you haven't seen before, we do these documentaries and we talk a little bit about why we went through the design process and how we came with some of the decisions to make, you know, some of the decisions we came to for the design process and how it came to have this statue right here and right now.
That's right, guys. If this is your first time checking out some of these documentaries, make sure you check out the other documentaries we have on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that channel as well. And you know, in this video, as I was saying, we've got plenty of questions that we will go through from the club members. And to find those questions, just join our F4F Figures Official Collectors Club. There's a thread in there. Every time when we start doing a documentary, there will be a post made, and you know, guys just jump straight in there to ask the questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this was something that we've been working on a while, and it's really nice to see, because it's been such a long time, Chocks, when we get those questions in from the group, it makes us remember the process and just how long it was, and going through all of that sort of stuff. So without further ado, should we kick in with the first one?
Yes, let's jump straight in. Right, first question from Joe Patterson. How did you decide on making a Shovel Knight statue? Was it community-based or a choice the company made to pursue? So,
shout out to Jeremy Beerson. He's one of the admins that helps run the Collectors Club on Facebook. And he did a poll in, I believe, having just recently looked at it, March 22nd, 2006.
Long
which
time
basically
ago,
said, yeah, right, exactly. Which said, you know, indie games, what indie game titles would you like F4F Figures to look into? And top of that list, Shovel Knight, which is fantastic. I mean, there was a lot of competition in there, but you know, Shovel Knight actually came out top, and the timing was amazing because the 22nd of May 2016 was just before the licensing show in June in Vegas, which I attended, and because of that poll, I actually put out the feelers to Yacht Club, you know, obviously fantastic developers of the Shovel Knight series, and I said, you know, this is something we're definitely looking into, and we would like to hear, you know, this is something that's available for licensing. So we definitely reached out to them, and they said, oh, you know, I asked them, were they going to the Vegas show, and they actually said, actually no, but one of our representatives, you know, one of our agents was there, and you know, you can deal directly with them. So that's what we did, and we had the meeting, and that was a really fantastic meeting I can remember. Said, you know, are you available for the time, etc, etc. Went to the meeting, sat down, and he said, done. I said, hello, I'm Alex from F4F Figures. He said, done. I said, yes, we want to get a statue license for Shovel Knight. Done. I was like, this is the easiest meeting I've ever done. And it was a really, you know, obviously fantastic meeting to be able to, he'd known about us before, and maybe he'd done some research on what we'd done, but he certainly knew who we were, and I didn't have to, because sometimes licensors may not understand this market. It's quite, you know, it's very niche, and it was very refreshing to sort of have someone who was so knowledgeable about this type of product, knowing exactly.
He's probably an F4F collector himself, right?
Well,
does he have an F4F? It will soon, right? Well, I mean, we've been doing this for years, and we're pretty much known for gaming statues, but we tend to kind of like touch on Nintendo and Sega, you know, the big AAA title games, right? So this is kind of new for us as well, working with the indie guys. I'm a big, massive gamer as well. I love playing indie games as well, so you know, it's nice, it's different. It's a different feeling working on these characters as well.
Definitely. Yeah. But I mean, if we actually talk about Shovel Knight itself, the whole character, the whole concept of the game itself, it's so retro that it really sort of fits in with that kind of nostalgia kind of take on things, and it really kind of perfectly works together, bearing in mind this is a really recent title, in the last 3 years.
We took a lot of inspiration from a lot of the classic
Exactly,
games.
of which we get our inspirations of making statues as well. So it's actually almost like a perfect match. That whole pixel style and the fact that we've done so many, obviously things sort of like the Marios and the Sonics, which had that kind of history in the pixel-based stuff. And moving forwards, and this is where we are now, it's really fantastic to sort of have that kind of modern with the old and sort of pair it all together in this statue. So it's definitely something that we are excited to do, especially having had that opportunity to meet and get the license in Vegas and then continue the development. And obviously once we got that license and that was dealt and that side of things was sorted out, we then worked directly with Yacht Club themselves, fantastic bunch of guys. And what was cool is because the guy who set up the deal, he's copied in, and every now and then he just jumps in and goes, "Oh, I want it," because he's a fan, he's a gamer as well. So it was nice for him to jump in and just sort of be positive about the development of how it came out. Cool. So yeah, definitely it is been a fantastic journey, and shout out to Yacht Club for that.
All right, cool. All right, you done with that question?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Next one from Joshua Baga. Why did you decide to add weathering and damage to Shovel Knight's armor rather than keeping clean? I really love how it looks.
Fantastic. So that's a great question. Now, when we got the license and we started working directly with Yacht Club and it started becoming about the development, I can remember having a phone call, and I think you might have actually been in the room at the time. It was after one of our Friday night Q&As or something like that. Right. And we were talking a little. I'm not sure if you were in there. I can't remember. In any case, the guys, the dev guys at Yacht Club, when we started actually talking about prior to actually sculpting it, one of the first things they said is, we don't want to see a blown up amiibo. Now, in case you don't know, there are I think 4 now total amiibos for Shovel Knight.
One's officially out. The other ones,
the other 3 are coming.
Coming,
sure. But what they didn't want is just a blown up version of that. Right. Now, if you look at some of our other statues that come from that genre, like I'll take for example Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog actually is very similar in that pixel concept and the classic one, obviously. And then when we made it into the styles that we currently make, the statues, it's very, very smooth. There's no textures on it, and that's kind of Sonic's thing. What they didn't want was a blown up amiibo. Now the amiibo doesn't really have this kind of texture details. And one of the things that I can remember distinctly having a conversation is we love the Artorias that you guys put out. So we did a Dark Souls, and that had come out January, February time of 2017. Yeah. So obviously we made initial contact in 2016. Get the license. You can see now we're developing. It's round about. Oh no, yeah. So it was actually before the Artorias has gone out into the marketplace, but at least there was images and stuff of Artorias, and they liked that whole detail that came with Artorias, in terms of the armor and what have you. And it's almost like the fundamental concept with the game as well. If you look at it on the surface, it might seem quite straightforward and and simple, but when you start going into it, you see all the Easter eggs or there's something new every time you play it. They wanted that kind of feeling where from afar it looks quite bold and cartoony. But as you get a little bit closer and you start looking very closely, there is tons of sculpt details within everything as well. So should we talk a little bit about those details, Chocks?
Yeah.
So why don't we start from the top down? Tell me what you can see.
Sure. I mean, first of all,
should we?
We should really give it a spin.
Give a bit of a spin.
Yeah. Right. So first of all, you can see straight away with the horns themselves. You can see the actual lines and grooves.
That's right. So it's almost like a kind of ivory, a tusk, a kind of horn, a kind of effect where you have those kind of lines.
Slightly chipped at the corners.
Right.
Like at the tip. So they're not fresh.
And the lines must go along the length of it. So you can't do vertical lines. It's got to be horizontal going along there. That's if you look at sort of those tusks. An elephant tusk, for example, it has that kind of going along the groove,
Yep.
sorry, along the length.
Yeah, and pretty much, first of all, we talk about the armour themselves. There's plenty of scuff marks and dents, battle damage worn. You know,
Yeah.
So it's not a brand new suit. It's a
Absolutely not.
It's definitely been in some battles. And then you got the inner suit as well. You get definitely like textures inside the suit. And
it's a kind of cloth material. So
Yeah.
did you notice that, so what kind of material is it on this sort of darker blue on the inside? It's a kind of like a cloth, yeah?
Not quite chainmail, right?
No, it's a cloth.
Cloth,
Kind
yeah.
of like a cloth, right? Then on the outside you have a kind of sort of leatherish kind
Leathery.
of texture, yeah?
Yeah.
Like a shaped leather.
Yeah.
Then you have,
Obviously, you have the armour plating on top of it.
yeah,
But apart from that, you can also get the elbow and the
knee pads.
knee pads.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, that's absolutely right, Charles. You got it right on the nail. You hit the nail on the head. There are tons of different types of parts within the armor itself. You have the hard parts, which is the protection of the helmet, the shoulder pads, the forearms, the not the gauntlets. You know, and you know, the sides, the feet. They are all that kind of light metallic blue color, and that's the sort of metallic thing, and it's got a beautiful sheen to it, Jocks. It's got a pearl finish in there as well as the metallic, so it gives it an overall kind of, not fluorescent is the word, but a pearlescent metallic kind of look to it. And hopefully you guys are seeing it in the actual video where with the light hitting it the way it
Yeah, when the
looks.
light hits it, it kind of looks. It has that kind of slight purple, pinkish tinge. Can you not see it?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just reflection. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be, but you know, it certainly has a different color and effect to the internal leather parts, which is a sort of darker blue compared to the light blue of the. So if you look at this one here, you have the light blue, and that is the color of the armor. Then underneath you have the leather effect, which is this part going over here, right?
I'm talking about the pearlescent
Sorry.
effect on the actual armor.
Yeah. So I'm now talking about on the inside part, right?
Right.
I'm talking about on the inside part
leather
here.
part, yeah?
Leather part,
Yeah.
And then you have the cloth material
Yeah.
here, which is the darker color. So when you go and look at it, you will see there are all these different types of textures within the actual sculpt, which is not initially apparent if you're from far away. Because if you're far away, you might actually say, well, you know, how does Shovel Knight look? Well, the main thing you're going to look at is the upper, you know, the head and the upper part, and therefore you're going to say he's, you know, that kind of metallic blue. Actually, if you go and look more closely, it's not quite the same, and it's probably more apparent with the differences when you look from the back Jocks. You can see the head versus the leather part on the back is completely different. And
Because on the official artwork, all you see is like three or four different tones.
types of blue, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And you get that over here, you see the 3 or 4 different types of blue here as well. And it's definitely something that the Yacht Club had said at the very beginning, we want to make sure it has that detail that if you go close and look at it, you'll see it. But if you're far away, you won't necessarily do it. i.e. it rewards you if you go, the model rewards you for going a little bit closer. Let's talk a little bit about, so that's a bit of the sculpt work on the figure itself. And then if we talk a little bit about the sort of texture and the sculpt work on the actual weapon, the shovel itself.
Yep.
What do you see, Jocks?
Well, textured wood, and you know, you get the, again, same, you get the weathering and some of the kind of dust, muddy effects on the actual shovel.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And of course, you have the handle over
Yep.
here. You can see it's a different kind of blue that matches this part over here.
Yeah.
Just above this, and nice to have this with some gold accents. It's a great design to have the gold accents going around the horns, going around the shoulder armors, the belt. It looks fantastic. So the color scheme itself is fantastic. I really like how it really makes the statue pop. Really makes it pop. No, it's really cool. So it was definitely, from the word go, something that we wanted to make sure that we incorporated, because that was certainly Yacht Club's wishes. We would have gone that way anyways. I mean, if you look at some of our stuff that we did with Spyro, which you could probably say is quite similar in the sense that we added extra details, the scales and the sort of the leather texture to the wings. Again, from far away you can't necessarily see it. When you go in closer, you can really sort of see it. So that's definitely the kind of thinking there was for Shovel Knight itself. And Chocks, the one thing that you may have noticed is, what do you see at the front? There is about the texture in the head, in the black part.
Black part?
Yeah. There isn't any.
Right, I'm just making sure.
And that is because obviously you're trying to give it some depth to it. So it's not like, if you look, Chocks, the black is recessed in.
Yeah.
And that's because you want to give the illusion that there is a kind of, because if you look at the actual game, it's like that T, right? But we wanted to make the helmet seem a bit more 3D. So that was definitely something that it didn't make sense to have any texture, Chocks. Why would you have a leather texture there? Why would you have a cloth texture there? You wouldn't have any texture there. The whole point is to create negative space where it has space, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's definitely what we worked on, and you know, it was really great to incorporate that to the sculpt.
Anything about the base?
Well, if you want to jump to the third question.
All right. Okay. All right. Third question from Jonathan. Congratulations, the Shovel Knight statue looks amazing. I also really like the base on this one. Is it from a specific piece of concept art or an F4F original idea?
Well, thanks very much for mentioning that, Jonathan Jakubowski. Yeah, much appreciated, because you know, Chuckles was just asking that very same question.
Always ahead of you guys.
So, if you've ever played the game, the very first level is a stage called the Plains. And the Plains is almost like a tutorial level. You go through it before you go to the village, which is right afterwards. And when you go through the Plains, it's really much a kind of grass top with the sort of wood, sort of muddy sides. As you know, it's a 2D platformer. I can sort of get that kind of feeling of almost like Green Hill Zone, as an example, from the Sonic lines. It has that kind of lovely green top with we were saying, having the sort of brownish sides, and having that kind of cracked effect and all that sort of stuff in the actual level itself. So in terms of the base itself, it was inspired, of course, by the first stage, the Plains. And if you then do a little bit more detail work, Chocks, do you want to have a go into the sort of things that you can see?
Well, the actual grass themselves, they have all the etchings and the lines.
And of course, if you actually watch, if you play the game, if you see it, it's just sort of green and it's pixelated. So we obviously had to go in there and say, hey, look, we want to be adding this kind of types of detail in the actual grass itself. Having those, if you look, there's lots and lots of line details in there, Chocks, to highlight sort of individual blades of grass. You can really sort of see that. And what do you see at the front, Chocks?
No, this bush at the front. This is the front, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's sort of lots of foliage out throughout the Plains, and then you can really sort of see how the shovel itself is not just placed on the ground. And it was important for the base to actually create a sense of purpose for Shovel Knight himself. Now let's talk a little bit about the pose of Shovel Knight. What do you notice about what he's putting his foot on? What is he doing?
Shovel himself.
So he's not just standing there. I mean, look, so we've gone for a very sort of stoic kind of pose, museum pose rather than an action pose. And what we wanted to do is have things that interacted with each other. So Shovel Knight interacts with his shovel, which interacts with the base, making it a complete package. So he has his foot up on his shovel. He owns the shovel. He is the Shovel Knight. Therefore, it made sense to have him sort of being in this heroic pose where he's connecting with that shovel. And then the shovel itself, as we said, you can see how it goes straight into the ground. You can see that's where only half of, maybe a quarter of it, you can't really see it because it's within the base itself. Of course, you can't just simply stick the base straight, stick the shovel straight into the base without having some sort of effect next to it. And of course, what do you see around the actual shovel head, Chocks?
The dirt, really. So he's probably Ooh, just starting to dig.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just he's just done his first.
Found his treasure.
Found his treasure.
Found his gold.
He's just put his foot directly onto the shovel. He's pushed it into the ground, and you know that's. You see the strength of it is now created. This kind of the dirt, how it's different from the actual green around, i.e. the grass. And that really was the point of the base, to tell the story. So step one, the story was it's from the plains. Step two, it had to be part of the actual figure itself. Now, the figure itself had to be part of that was the actual weapon itself. And that's why it's Shovel Knight, and that's why it made sense to have it putting into the ground. Because one of the concepts was, I don't know, holding the shovel in the air. Because when the first poses, when you jump onto the screen, the first thing
when you start the level,
he does that. He puts a shovel up in the air. That could have been one of the poses, but then I thought about that, but it started creating a lot of extra height that I think was a little bit unnecessary. And of course, you couldn't tell that story of having the shovel going directly into the ground itself. So definitely that was some of the reasoning, the thinking behind the base. So my question for you, Chalks, is does that answer your question?
Yeah, answer Jonathan's question.
And the question is, does it answer Jonathan's as well? But does it at least answer your question?
Yeah.
Jonathan, let us know in the comments whether or not it answers yours.
Alright, next question from Jessica Castic. What was the hardest part in making this statue, be it design-wise or detail-oriented?
Shout out to Jessica, she's a lovely admin over in the Collectors Club. So in terms of the difficult part, I think it was initially the sculpting of understanding the different parts of it's not just all metallic. And we talked, of course, about metallic going into the leather, into the cloth, and making sure we got that correct. And we were having to apply, if you look at the official artwork, as you said, it's just different variations of blue. So we had to then think, okay, well, how this part of the blue represents this type of material, and just trying to basically get that up and running and trying to get that just about right. In terms of the actual concept, that took a little bit of time. As I said, we went through these pose choices, having up in the air with a shovel, all that sort of stuff. But once we sort of figured that part out, the actual sculpt work itself was pretty straightforward. I think it wasn't for the sculpting side, wasn't too difficult. The concept took the most amount of time itself. Right. The painting was slightly, no, I think that was pretty straightforward as well. It was pretty straightforward as well. So we got the painting down as well.
Yeah, it went pretty smooth this project. I don't think there was that many challenging issues at all.
Yeah, I mean, touch wood, I think that's finally a bit of that old experience coming through.
Because it's experience. Yeah, it's kind of like exactly, you know, the same thought process, you know, like old retro style gaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry, the thing I wanted to point out, we were talking a bit about the paint just then, is if you look at the side of the base chalks, there's actually little bits of foliage that you can see sort of sticking out over here, you know, over here, for example. But also, if you actually look at the brown itself, it's not just one tone, it's not just one color brown. Can you see that, Charles?
Yeah.
So we've used a paint technique called a bit of a dry brushing technique, which basically brings and highlights out the differences on the actual surfaces, on these flat surfaces, and then inside the brown, so inside the grooves itself, so inside all these lines itself, there is another darkening wash. Yeah. So there's three parts of the brown in there, so it's not just one color brown. It's darkening, you're having a base color, then you then add the wash, and then on top of that you then have a highlight of the dry brushing on the flat surfaces. So that's why actually it has quite a lot of depth to it, it's not just one brown. Just wanted to mention that, Charles.
Right.
Sure.
Cool. Right. Next question from Thomas Lane. With the 20% increase to his size, to what scale would you deem Shovel Knight? So
that's a great question. Those that don't know, actually Shovel Knight made his debut when we went to New York Comic Con in 2017, in October. That's right. And actually what we showed there was a Shovel Knight was actually 20% smaller. Now, that was quite interesting because of New York Comic Con. Normally we never go to cons, And because of New York Comic Con, we wanted to make a big impression, and we brought out a lot of pieces that previously we've never debuted, and one of them was Shovel Knight. And we hadn't actually, you know, we didn't have the time to make any changes to what we have now. We accidentally made him too small, 20% smaller. Now, the question is why, what determines the size of Shovel Knight should be? Should it be this size? Should it be that size? Well, the reality is we have quite a lot of these kind of cartoony range. Now, of course, I know Shovel Knight is Shovel Knight, and any subsequent items, pieces within the Shovel Knight range will be to scale, sure. But if you start looking at the different ranges that we do that's in this style, some of the Spyros, the upcoming Crash Bandicoot, the Sonics, the Mega Mans, the Marios, all this kind of stuff, they all look great together. And we know that we have some fantastic supporters who buy multiple different lines from us, and we're considering that as well. So definitely we felt that that 20% smaller one wasn't just quite right, and we wanted to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm glad we did, because I think that it definitely adds a little bit more presence to any potential Shovel Knight collection. Let's say you have the amiibos, let's make it just that more impressive, because all of our pieces are supposed to be centerpieces for any kind of collection that you're collecting. So that is what the thought was, giving it that little bit more appealing size for that kind of statement, to make it a centerpiece.
I mean, like I said, they all look really good with the rest of the other products that we've made. And if you're a fan of the game, you know that the game was inspired by Mega Man and Castlevania, that kind of style gameplay. And if you actually have one of our Mega Man characters, having that next to Shovel Knight kind of makes sense. It does. It falls into place.
It does.
It's like one game was inspired from another game.
Absolutely. So Mega Man line, if you look at it and you compare it to the upcoming Zero we've got coming up, it's just so much better now at this size compared to the one that we debuted in New York Comic Con. Now, as I said, if it wasn't for New York Comic Con, we would never have debuted or shown a 20% smaller one, but we had to get that done in time for the event.
Show,
yeah. So that's Thomas Lane wouldn't have actually known about a 20% smaller version had we not have gone to New York Comic Con. So that's the reasoning. The point is, it never should have been 20% smaller in the first place.
Alright, cool. Next question from Nick Enquist. Are there any other statues already being developed for the Shovel Knight line? Can we get a statue of the bard jamming out of his lute?
On his lute.
On his lute. Out of his lute. Excuse me?
So in terms of the Shovel Knight line, we would love to hear what you think you would like to see. You know, obviously it would be no-brainers to do the Plague and the Spectre Knights. They have their own, their own campaigns and stuff like that, which is fantastic. But you know, for you to say, Nick, that you're something like the bard jamming out on his lute. So when you first go to the village after the plains, you're just walking around the village. It's the first time you just sort of, it's where you upgrade stuff, etc., etc. There's a guy who's by a fountain. He's a bard, and you can pay him money to play a song because of the soundtrack. Jocks, it's fantastic. It's got that kind of retro
to the soundtracks.
Yeah, and you pay the bard money, you collect the sounds, the songs, and off you go. You can start playing. You can hear that. So I believe that's what Nick's referring to for having the bard jamming out on his lute. What do you think about the soundtracks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a big fan of the 8-bit style kind of soundtracks. I constantly listen to 8-bit soundtracks all the time. And funny thing about this game is, like, it was composed by Manami Matsume, and she used to work back in the Capcom days. She used to work on Mega Man as well. So it's kind of like, a mixture of everything, like 8-bit kind of style platform gaming, and then you get your composer that originally made the Mega Man.
It's what we said at the very beginning, how this is such a fantastic property for First Figures, bearing in mind that we're all about the nostalgia. To be able to couple that with the present, with a game that's just come out relatively recently, bearing in mind a lot of the licenses that we have are things with 20, 30 years history. it's fantastic to be able to sort of put that all together. What a fantastic job.
All right.
Your club done a fantastic job.
That's one. All right, next question from Alessio Bucci. Any other nights planned?
Well, I believe that's sort of already answered by Nick, but yeah, you know, as I said, rally, who do you want to see, you know, King Knight, Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, Shield Knight, obviously, you know, all about, it's your lover in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so that would definitely be really, really nice to do. One thing I would say though is Shield Knight, for example, is quite a bit bigger, so we would have to consider maybe not having such a big base to take into account that she's taller, and to try and get the overall size and the overall dimensions similar, and be more creative with the pose as well to think about how to do that. But yeah, you know, rally the fans. We love to do a big range.
Yeah. All right, cool. Right, next question from Abraham Sanchez. How would Shovel Knight compare to the likes of Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist?
Well, the fact is, Shovel Knight has armor. Alphonse has armor.
Right.
In terms of the actual, the actual characters, they're not exactly in the same. They're not exactly in the same. Oh, sorry. One of Thomas Lane's questions was. No, well, I forgot about it. Was to what scale would you deem Shovel Knight? Right, and sort of talking a little bit about that. You know, scales came about because you have a real world item or thing, whatever it may be. That's where scale comes from. And you have a real world human at 1 meter 80, 6 foot. If you say it's 1/6 scale, that would imply that he stands approximately, if he's saying 6 foot, 12 inches tall, right? If it's 1/4, you would say 18 inches. When it comes to these cartoony characters, what scale is Spyro in? What scale is Sonic in? What scale is Shovel Knight in? You know, it doesn't quite work because Shovel Knight doesn't exist. Sonic doesn't exist. Spyro doesn't exist. So it's really, really hard to say what the scale is. All we can do is just give the measurements based on that. And if you were to, and you'll come back to the measurements a little bit later on, if you were going to say it had to represent something from that, you would typically say, I guess, 1/6 scale, probably, if you were kind of forced to do that. But of course, a human, 12 inches tall, is not nearly as wide or as thick. So it's really, really sort of hard to say. And if you look at Shovel Knight, he's actually very, very small in the game. He's kind of like, all the other ones are quite bigger.
Very Mega Man style.
Right.
Scale.
Right. So it really makes it quite hard to say this is the scale it is. But if you're gonna force me to say something, I would say 1/6. So when we go back to Abraham Sanchez's question about Shovel Knight comparing it to Alphonse, well, in that, you would say Alphonse is significantly bigger than Shovel Knight. It's a different universe. Again, it doesn't really exist, but of course, if you were to say Alphonse when it finally comes out will be significantly bigger,
very big,
because you would say that was more like 1/4 scale.
Yeah.
So once we, Abraham Sanchez, when we debut our Alphonse, hit me up and we'll put side by side with Shovel Knight to see.
Put all the knights.
There you go.
Together.
There you go.
Right, last but not least, last question from Jessica Castic again. How was the choice of the exclusive made? Were there any other ideas that came up that were disregarded?
Well, that's a very presumptuous question that there is an exclusive.
Yes.
But there is. So that was actually
It's quite interesting, wasn't it?
It was actually discussed and recommended by Yacht Club themselves. They said, guys, this is what we want to see for the exclusive. We're like, hey, that's fantastic input. I'm really happy when licensors get involved and they say they want to see this. We think this is going to resonate with the Shovel Knight fan base. And this is an example where the guy that set up the deal was like, yes. Yes. And then he goes back to being quiet and then watching, and then it's back to the, but oh yeah, it's gonna look great, all that sort of stuff. So there is indeed an exclusive version.
Did you guys notice the button on the back?
Well, there isn't.
There's no button on the back.
There isn't one. One more time, there is no button on the back. So this time though, it is something that is a switch out option. We're just gonna stop this right here, Chocks.
New gamers should know what it is.
Let us know in the comments. Pause the video now. Wait. Unpause it. Let us know in the comments after you pause the video what you think the exclusive will be. Pause your video now. Unpause. Were you correct? Well, we're going to find out right now. Indeed. So it is a switch out part. Now, Chocks, when you look at the pose, it's not actually too many areas that you could actually switch out. The first would be this arm over here.
Right.
Because the reality is the legs and the stability and the shovel, it's all connected. You must have this. Otherwise it will fall over. So it was really the arm or the head. And ultimately, oh, it's a strong magnet.
Very strong.
There it is. We went for the head. Guys, there aren't actually that many different heads on Shovel Knight. In fact, I believe there's only one.
Right, okay.
The exclusive version, Chocks, I'll pass that over to you.
Alright.
Do you guys know what it is? Make sure you write in the comments. In 3, 2, 1.
Did you guys get it right?
Boom! Check that out. Fish head.
That's so funny.
I love that. Let's start that from over here.
Slowly.
What a fantastic exclusive that Yacht Club suggested. What a great idea. And it was a fantastic thing to sculpt. So, Chocks, let's talk a little bit about this fish head. What on earth is that all about?
You tell me.
So when you're going around the villages and you go to these armor outposts, if you pay attention, because it is quick and very rare, you'll see exactly this, another Shovel Knight, but with this head on, running past, and it has question marks on it. You're not sure who it is.
Right.
And I think from running from right to left across the screen, maybe 3 seconds, and there's other villagers walking around and doing stuff, and you can miss it. And this is what I was talking about before, about how Yacht Club has been so amazing by being able to have all these little small extra things if you pay attention, and which is what they really wanted when it comes to the sculpt, adding those details to make it a little bit more rewarding to go and have a look and to see exactly what's being done. So suggesting this fish head was a fantastic idea. And of course, if you actually got the amiibo with the Wii U version, Chocks, you could actually scan the Shovel Knight amiibo, and you can actually unlock this as a custom head. Outfit, as a custom outfit. And I think it's so unique that it was really a great thing and a fun thing to add as the exclusive version, Chocks. What do you think?
It's funny.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah. So would you want to have a little talk about the details that you see of that itself?
Well, definitely. First of all, I'm looking from behind right now. You can definitely feel the what are these called?
Scales.
Scales.
Bumpy
right?
sort of scales.
Bumpy, yeah. Because
it's almost like a catfish, right?
Yeah. Because we were like thinking, should this be slimy? We don't want to have it too slimy. Because right now the difference here, you can. Day and night.
Absolutely day and night. You've got that matte colour, matte finish, and a lighter kind of baby blue. Yeah. But look at those eyes, Chocks.
Those eyes are, very shiny.
So if you had a shiny body, I mean the head, right, those eyes wouldn't have that pop. Can you see the pop that it has now, Chocks? Can you guys see? Maybe if we there
from there.
Yeah, I mean look at the way that is reflecting off of the lightings that we've got over here. You can really sort of see how that lights up. So if you were to have a very shiny head as well as the eyes, it would mean that it wouldn't actually have that pop of you that you have with those eyes. And I love the kind of expression of the head as well. How you have this kind of look at the mouth over there. It's like Okay, let me see your...
The way he looks up.
Well, my best one. It's almost Judge Dredd-esque. But yeah, you know, adding that and having the tentacles, not tentacles, not the word, the antenna or the whiskers, we could say, from the bottom and the top part as well, and having those tendrils come out really was quite fun. However, chocks, they are quite brittle, or it would be. So what we've done is actually made these magnetic. So all of these chocks,
the ones at the top, there's 4 pieces at the top. Each one of those will be removable.
Your chocks.
Yeah, they come with a piece of magnet in them at the end.
Yeah. So you can just slot those back in. That's quite easy. It's got a nice. And of course, you guys, in case you didn't see that, there's a huge magnet in the bottom of the armored head, the helmeted head.
Yep.
And of course, there's a big magnet on the bottom of the fish head as well.
Yep.
So that was definitely a consideration for the shipping. So that really is the fun exclusive. We're really pumped to show it. No one actually saw this at New York Comic Con. We kept that under wraps. We didn't sort of tell anybody what it was. And when you think about all the different things, one of the things that had initially come up was Shovel Knight having a different arm position. This arm, because as I said, this is the only thing that you could have changed, and it could have been like with a fist, you know, maybe holding something, whatever it could have been. But definitely we loved this suggestion by Yacht Club, and really grateful for them to point this out. And I think it really makes for a unique display chocks. How many? First of all, having a Shovel Knight. Secondly, a Shovel Knight with this fish head. It just really looks good, and it's really, and especially even if you don't know anything about Shovel Knight, you walk into someone's room that's on their shelf, they're like, the first thing that they go and look at, they're gonna go, what? That's amazing. Well, that's the desired effect. But you know, definitely something that we really liked. Indeed. All right, chocks.
Right. Next.
Shoutouts.
Yeah? Alright guys, shoutouts. Right, there's going to be 10 shoutouts soon coming from Alex, and you're going to ask me where they're from. So I'm going to tell you that they're also from in the Collectors Club as well. So in that same post where you can actually ask these questions, randomly in there I will put in a comment saying, hey guys, first 10 people to reply to that comment will get a shout out from Alex. So make sure you save that post just in case that whenever I put in a comment there, you jump straight in there and get a shout out from Alex.
And on that note, in 3, 2, 1, shout out to Anto Jambon. What is going on, mate? Derek Baker. Big up Matt Watkins. How's it going to Ashley Liang? Bada bing bada boom to Devon Wenstrom. Shout out to Brendan Rastello, lovely new admin joining the team. Shout out to Gerardo Oliveres. John Morales, how's it going, mate? We have Chris Hildebrand Jr. and last but not least, shout out to Alan Robbins. Bada bing bada boom. I'm sure that's more than 10.
Really?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10.
Absolutely spot on, chocks.
Of course.
There you go. Sweet, chocks.
Right, what next?
You have seen Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
You like the fish head. You like the helmeted head. You think this would be a perfect part of your collection. You have a fantastic Shovel Knight collection already. You want
let me just say what comes in this piece, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
For example, right now,
yes, sorry.
the regular version.
Should we take this off?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, he's got that. Sure.
Alright, so guys. Right. So the regular version will be just this, the standard Shovel Knight. So the package itself will come with a base, the Shovel Knight with the shovel, and then the head. So that's 3 pieces. So you can imagine the packaging will be quite small. Nice little decent size.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of in scale with the 1/6 scale range that we
Yeah.
have. Yeah. And then the exclusive will come with the extra piece of fish head. Yeah. So and then it'll and again those top 4
I'm trying to do it so I look like a
and those whiskers at the top, they're removable, so that's 4 pieces there, and then the head itself 5.
Yeah. These aren't removable.
Those two at the bottom are not removable. At the front.
As long as it passes a drop test, we'll be making sure of that.
That's right. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces for the exclusive version.
Yeah.
We do the measurements?
Yeah, let's do it.
The can test first.
Ah, of course. Right, so here we go. Bada bing.
Kind of that same shiny effect, doesn't it?
Bada boom, it does. It does, it does. Yeah.
Do
you think
we should have some blue cans?
Do you think his armor is made of aluminium?
Recyclable.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. So just a bit over 3, yeah, about here.
Just under 3.5.
3.5. Now, this for our American family is 330 ml. You guys, I think, are 355 ml.
Yeah.
So they're very slightly smaller than the ones that you get in America. But you can have a bit of an idea of exactly what the sort of overall size would be that you would need. So you've had a look and you're interested in the regular, you're interested in the exclusive. You've now got a perfect place for it to fit in your Shovel Knight collection. So Chunks, what's the sort of exact scale, size, measurements, weight?
Inches and centimeters.
Bada bing, bada boom.
As always, let's start with the height.
All right.
And let me just make sure. Yep, it's on this. It's on your side because that horn there is slightly.
That side, mate.
Really?
Is that side? That side.
It looks like it's your side.
What?
Yes, it's your side.
Nah, mate. That side.
Seriously, it's your side.
No, it's not. It's this side. No. Don't look at me and don't look at that. Just look at the kid. Just look in there. No. That is taller. There you go.
Really?
Yeah.
All right then, from this side. I don't know why it somehow looks taller there.
You reckon?
Yeah. Give or take, there's only going to be a couple millimeters. Right now I've got about 15.5 inches in height, which is around about 39 centimeters.
So interestingly, if you think you can measure him from the bottom of his foot to the top of his horn, how tall would that be?
This one's about 13.
Yeah.
So
I would say it would be 1/6 scale. I would say, yeah.
And then for the width would be, from there, from the edge of that shovel, sticking out, and also the arm and the horn itself is sticking out on this side. I've got that roughly about 12 inches.
Is it the horn or the hand?
The hand. Give or take the horn and hand.
Yeah.
It's pretty much similar. So I've considered that. I put that into consideration. And that's roughly about 12 inches wide, which is 30 centimeters. And then the depth, which is basically the front of the bush to the back of the base, because there's nothing sticking out from behind there. That's roughly about 10 inches.
Yeah, so the base of the diameter is 10 inches,
The depth is 10 inches, which is around about 25 centimeters. So it's a nice little small piece.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I won't say small, but it's nice.
It's compact, and there's a lot of space used. It's kind of square, kind of, quite substantial in terms of the sort of presence that it gives. I think very good use of the space, basically.
I mean,
value for space.
I mean, a lot of people say, "Hey, we're doing big pieces, and we're not forgetting about the small pieces." So, yeah, we're still going to keep on doing these pieces.
Right.
Yeah. And then I've got the weight. Basically, it's pretty much the same. The regular, this one, and the exclusive one with the fish head is pretty much the same weight, 4.39 kg.
Weighty.
Yeah.
For a small piece.
For a small piece, yeah.
When I say it's small, again, it's the thickness of them all. As we talked about, 1/6 scale human would never weigh as much because it's so much thinner.
Yeah.
As a human, of course. But yeah.
It's not made out of aluminium because that would be very light. So.
It's not heavy.
So 4.39 kg.
Cool. All right. I believe, Chocks, there may be one more thing.
Yeah.
Well, I've not got any sleeves to roll up. You do, so I'd love for you to roll up your sleeves and introduce something that you've got hidden in your sleeves. I'm just gonna move this bad boy to the right.
You sure?
Absolutely.
I think this time we've got plenty of space.
Just about, actually.
Yeah,
well, we'll see.
Alright. Be very careful.
I'll actually take this off so you can put that in the middle.
Alright. Here we go. Are you ready?
I am.
Boom! Oh, my eyes!
My eyes.
It's blinding.
Check that out. That is quite blinding.
Shiny, shiny.
So we have here, Chocks, a super variant. Now, Chocks, unfortunately, this one isn't the exactly final version of the ornate plate armor. Yacht Club has requested some slight changes that unfortunately we couldn't get done just in time for this video, but of course we'll overlay it now just to see some of the changes that they have requested. Now, of course, all of the stuff that we do is subject to final approval, and sometimes we can make some slight tweaks later on as well.
Yeah, as always, I mean, just like with any other projects that we do, there's always going to be changes. You know, fingers crossed there's not going to be any changes, but sometimes situations like that do happen during the product development. And as always, if we have any updates, we'll always update in the Collectors Club as well.
Absolutely. And this will only be available on our website exclusively for a grand total of 8 days.
Yeah.
And after that, they're never going to be around anymore. Whereas the other ones are for, I believe, 15 days plus the last chance.
Yeah, for the exclusive and the regular version, right?
The regular version will be for longer, etc. So this is the exclusive, super exclusive variant where, as I said, time limited to a much shorter time of simply only 8 days. Now, why don't we have a little talk about what this is?
Yes.
It is called the Ornate Plate Armor, and it is, quite frankly, useless. Now, what do I mean by that, Chocks? Well, you go to the armor outpost, and you jump up on an airship. Again, you don't, and this is the point. You run around and you don't notice there's a little ladder. You miss it. You can never see it. You don't even see this whole section where you upgrade or change your armors or whatever it may be, upgrade your shovel. You can just completely miss it. So Shovel Knight Yacht Club have been really, really amazing by rewarding those that actually go on adventures and go and look and pay attention to the details and give them Easter eggs and what have you. So you're going along and then you see this random ladder. You jump up onto it. You can't just walk up it. It's in the air.
Right.
You've got to jump up to it. You go up and there's a whole airship in the air. On there are 2 guys. One helps you upgrade your shovel and the other one helps you upgrade your or change your armor. So let's give it a bit of a spin. And this one is worth how many G's?
8,000, right?
8,000 gold. And it is the most expensive one that you can buy. And it is absolutely useless. It says literally useless.
Bro, it's gold.
It is.
Yes.
Now, I'm loving I think the Lazy Susan is struggling against the...
Really?
Yes. Kind of like making a lot of noise. You know, in terms of the actual...
Spin the other way. Yeah.
Quieter. Yeah, that's better. That's better. You know, so in terms of the actual plate, the actual armor itself, it really only has aesthetic changes. Of course, it looks beautiful. Let's be clear. In the game, it looks absolutely fantastic, and it's something that looks amazing to run around in. And of course, we wanted to translate that into the actual piece itself. But in terms of, if you choose any of the other armors, it does different sort of modifications to your general gameplay experience. Whereas this one literally does nothing apart from a little bit of acrobatics.
Yeah.
When you jump.
When you jump up, it does a somersault in the air. I believe it has some kind of some slight effects in the game, like some dark areas, because it has this kind of like shimmery trail. It lights up a little bit. And I believe one of the cutscenes in the game, maybe you jump off a trampoline or something. Before you would land on your face, but now you would land on your feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So it has some slightly, like I said, Yacht Club games are really good at adding these little nice touches and these little Easter eggs in the game as
Absolutely. Well. Absolutely. Now, I wanted to say that what was really interesting, if you compare this to the actual Shovel Knight that we just said, so I'll just pause this slightly over here. We can talk about the differences, and maybe what I'll do is
bring the other one back in.
Was that 4 point how many kilograms?
4.39.
Do you even lift? Got some weight to it. Now, what you'll notice, Chocks, is if you go around and you do that, so you look at them together, is that we talked about the leather, we talked about the cloth of the blue one, the original Shovel Knight, and we talked about how there is a difference between the pearlescent finish versus the leather and the cloth. And that's kind of more apparent when you swing this around the back, right? You can really see how it's very much matte and it's got the cloth here, right? Compared to this. Well, if you look at the ornate armor, actually the whole thing is reflective. The whole thing is a version of gold. So you can see that you have this over here and you have it, you know, with the cloth as well. So the leather portions and the cloth portions have this golden finish to it, which has this pearlescent sheen to it, the whole thing. Even the horns themselves. Can you notice that as well, Chops?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So you can see, and especially where the way it catches the light, there is a fundamental difference. Of course, the actual blue and the gold of this part is the same, right? The is the same, but the actual effect and the finish of the, you know, as we were saying, the blues and the darker blues, which is with this, the internal leather and the cloth area are completely in that metallic effect. But that's not just all Chocks. There is actually some variations between the actual shovels themselves. What can you see, Chocks?
Oh, the shovels pretty much all in that gold color. The kind of the straps around this area, and then the actual wood texture itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shade of different gold color as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you can see that there's a difference with the actual, because you've got the wooden color of the actual handle, and then of course if you look at the wooden, the grip here where you have blue, again it has this, which matches over here as well. So it was really taking those areas that were different in color here, and applying it to the ornate plate armor itself. So yeah, you know, there you go, Chocks. It looks really, really great together.
So yeah, exactly, guys. So basically, yeah, this is the variant edition.
Now, of course, it would be a shame if the variant edition didn't come with his own version,
own exclusive part.
There you go. So without any further ado, bada bing, bada boom. Let's bring that bad boy on.
Oh God, this is really strong. Oh my God. Ooh.
There it is.
That's really strong.
Wow, check it out. Yeah. Now, what is interesting, of course, is what I'll do is I'll actually change this over as well.
I know, it's really crazy.
Okay, hold on. There you go. So what you can now see, of course, is you have, again, that whole matte texture of the matte texture of the fish head. However, it is this golden effect. So whilst you have a kind of matte texture, there is actually, Chocks, something quite subtly different.
It's subtle, but you can see the difference.
So maybe as we swing this around, you can see it much more on the back. But guys, I don't know if it focuses, maybe we can do some close-ups of this. When you look at the actual finish of the scales, some of them have subtle golden colors within there in order to give it that little bit of gold sheen to it. Because again, we talked about how the armor, the chest piece, the leather part and the cloth part were more metallic looking. Well, we didn't want to go completely metallic for the head. We wanted to add little bits of little bits of gold in there gold flakes
yeah.
for those scales. And of course you still have those beady black eyes, nice and shiny. But you know, absolutely, it's really allowed for it to be far more you know, interesting to have those little bit more, a little bit of dots of gold, just to give it a little bit more, making more sense with regards to the ornate plate armor itself. You know, I don't think it doesn't make sense for it to have it on this one, because it's not all about having a shine to it, whereas the ornate plate, it's much more about that.
But if you bought the combo edition, you could kind of interchange, right?
So you have just said that's absolutely right. This is going to be available as a combo. So what we're going to be making available on the website is the exclusive version of the blue Shovel Knight and the exclusive version of the ornate plate Shovel Knight. Both of them will come with the interchangeable heads, and they will be available at a discounted rate. Now, as you said, Chocks, what you like to do in the comforts of your own home with regards to how you display your combo edition, you can, you know, you feel free to display it how you would like to in the comforts of your own home. Some things, though, should be kept behind closed doors.
Quite cool. All along in the blue Shovel Knight was actually a gold fish.
There you go. Well, let us know, Yacht Club, if that was your intention, or whether or not Chocks just reworded the lore of Shovel Knight.
Right.
So that, I believe, Chocks, is it. Are there any questions? Oh, just in terms of the size and the weight, I'm assuming it's
exactly the same. Yeah.
Exactly the same. They are, you know, pretty straightforward in terms of just being exactly the same size and all that sort of stuff. So again, a nice package, nice weight to it, a nice size, and yeah, and that, Chuckles, is another one wrapped up.
Alright, sweet.
Sweet. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Chuckles.
F4F is love.
F4F is life.
And we'll see you in the next one. Peace!
Laters.